Hello, everybody. I would like to talk about the cost of our Entract project. It's a CASDA project that IFIP is involved in. And in this project, we looked at what it meant to work in a farm. In this case, a pig farm, we actually looked at other kinds of breeding activities with other animals. The results are actually bearing on all kinds of breeding farms, including bovine and poultry breeding farms. Now, we're talking about society issues that are actually bearing on the farms, climate warming, environmental impact, all the questions relating to relationship with animals, living conditions for the animals in the breeding farms. There are society issues. So we looked at the whole social context because questions have been raised regarding breeding, and it has a consequence on the way breeders have been considered by the general population. There is a judgment from society that will lead to lesser recognition or even negative opinions and negative feelings towards farmers. And they feel bad because they feel like their identity has been questioned and made weaker. This society-related context has an indirect or direct impact on the husbandry practices. There will be changes, sometimes willingly adopted or sometimes imposed, and this will lead to uncertainty, anxiety, and the feeling of being powerless for breeders. And they feel like they have had to adapt themselves, and we are wondering how we can support them in this process to adapt themselves to the new context. The Entract project is regards breeders facing society-related issues to try and understand what it means exactly to be a breeder today and what the dynamic is of the current changes. It is not easy to be a breeder. You don't always make a lot of money. You can barely make a living sometimes, and the profession is being questioned by society. And yet, there are people who want to be breeders and are happy to be breeders. They choose to be breeders and they choose to start a breeding activity. And so, we wanted to understand exactly what the situation is right now, so that we can provide support to breeders and people working in the breeding industry to help them face the society issues and adapt to the changes in society. And the ultimate aim is to support also not only the breeders but also the people helping them, their counselors, their advisors, the people who are in contact with the breeders and are supposed to help them face the changes. The Entract project is based on several actions. Today I'm going to talk about action number 1 because the project only started early 2023, so this is only the first year. Action number 1, it was about reviewing the way the breeding profession is seen in society and the role it plays in society, but seen under the angle of the breeders themselves. So we talked to the breeders. The breeders, both women and men, were interviewed, and we also interviewed the people who are supposed to help them, technicians, advisors. It is a multi-industry study. We look at the main breeding activities in France: bovine, poultry, sheep, and goats and pigs. And we had 37 semi-directive interviews on 9 pig farms. We wanted to have a general picture looking at all kinds of problems that are common to all breeding activities. We looked at 3 areas, simply to simplify the process, because we had partnerships in those areas, but we can generalize the results to the rest of the French territory. So we asked several questions, and the first question we asked ourselves was, is being a breeder something that makes people happy? And we found several reasons for them to be happy and be fulfilled. The first thing they report is the connection with animals and nature. Breeders spontaneously report the fact that they like being in contact with animals on a daily basis, or they talk about a very specific aspect, the type of animal they breed, or even the breed within an animal species, the breed that they raise. Sometimes they like doing a specific action with the animals. Sometimes they like milking. Sometimes they like simply watching their animals, or sometimes they enjoy managing the herd. And for some of them, it's the connection with nature that really makes them happy. Having to grow crops, to protect nature. For some of them, it's also the fact that they will make a difference in the way they have shaped the landscape. Now, the second item that they reported very often was the fact that they felt this was a rich profession. It entailed many diversified tasks. It was very technical, so they referred to technical skills, also human relationships with their co-workers, with their workers, or with other farmers, the fact that they were in a position to talk to other farmers. And feeling useful was also something they reported. They thought that their job made sense. They were feeding the population. They were producing high quality food for the population. For some of them, they also liked direct sales. The fact that they could sell the products directly to the customers, having a connection with the customers, also hearing from the feedback from the customers, and actually being in control of the whole supply chain. Finally, the third source of fulfillment was being self-employed and managing your company, being free to organize your working hours, feeling that you are helping your company progress because you control it from A to Z, and finally also freedom to make decisions. Now, the downside were obviously the challenges they were facing, and we also tried to understand what the main challenges were daily and also for the future. And the first thing they reported was the workload and the working conditions, difficult working conditions, mental load. Mental load is a very fashionable word now. People used to talk about stress. Now they talk about mental load. It means that you have a lot to think about. And also the private life, professional life balance, having the feeling that you're on call permanently because you're dealing with living animals. And finally, the fact that your work is unpredictable. Your work is repeated. It's not so much the administrative load that matters, but the fact that you have to do a lot and it's always being repeated. The second source for anxiety was financial insecurity. They felt like they had to make sure the farm was profitable. They had to make a living, and they depended on public subsidy. And more generally, we felt like they shared a concern for the future of agriculture. What about the competition from foreign countries? Is the French agricultural model going to survive? And also the competition between different models. Some farmers in France feel like there are several breeding models which are in competition with each other. And finally, public support to agriculture and the future of that kind of support. And finally, they also mentioned something which we felt was new. They reported factors that are extrinsical to the farm, outside the farm. The environmental crisis, the farmers reported that they are worried about climate changes, climate warming, and water resource scarcity. They also talked about the way their job was perceived, the profession was perceived by people who could possibly choose to do the same job, the fact that they could not pass on their farms to their offspring or other younger farmers, and also the expectations from society, the civil society and the general population, and the lack of recognition for their profession. Based on all these interviews, we tried to define several types of farmers based on how they perceive their profession, based on the expectations from the general population. And I'm going to introduce the 4 different profiles. We have people who care for animals and communicate about animals. We have peasants who are also citizens. We have salespeople with constraints and flexible entrepreneurs. Now, don't really look at the title. Think about what it really means, the way they think. The first group, this is a group of people for whom being a breeder means living with animals. That is what makes sense for them, caring for animals. And those people are extremely frustrated by the expectations from the general population. They don't understand. They think this is my job to care for animals. It's my job to care for living animals. And I don't understand why I'm being criticized. So they suffer from the lack of recognition. And one solution consists in communicating a lot on their profession, trying to convince people and bring them on board and telling people, I'm already doing my best to match the general population expectations, regardless of the type of breeding farm we're talking about and the kind of production we're talking about. Those people are extremely sensitive to animal welfare and well-being and the connection with animals. They try to do something in their farm to improve animal well-being, but they can also double back if they don't think the results are convincing, and they very often talk about financial issues that led to changes. Yes, less than a minute? Okay, then I have to be quick. The salespeople who feel restrained, those are people who sell their products directly, and that's what they like about being breeders. They're not so passionate about breeding animal, but what they like is producing food that can be sold directly to the customers. So what they like is to be in contact with the customer. They don't feel like there is a lack of recognition because they have a direct feedback from the customers when they sell the products, and those people believe that the customers should take the responsibilities, that the customers share the responsibility of the general population expectations. They say if they have an issue, they should come and talk to me. The flexible entrepreneur or company managers, those are people who are passionate for techniques and the way to optimize their farm. They think about the system, they try to improve it, they try to change things to make their farm even more, to give their farm a better performance. And what they are looking for are opportunities that they think they should grab. And they think there are new markets and it represents the economy of the future. And finally, we have the farmers who believe that they are restrained. They are passionate for animals and agriculture, and they are looking for a lifestyle more than anything else. For them, being a breeder means a lifestyle. You get up as a breeder and you go to bed as a breeder. And for them, the general population expectation is a matter of common sense. They agree with the general population's request, and when they make changes to their farm, they don't go back. They do it because they are utterly convinced that this is the way to go. In conclusion, we have to bear in mind, well, we know that, but not all the farmers understand their profession the same way. For some people, it's production that matters. For others, it's the social meaning. For others, it's selling. For others, it's the environmental impact that matters. But we have a trend. In each profile, we see representatives from all the breeding industries and all the systems. And they share the frustration regarding the general population expectations, but they hear what is being said. And for many farmers, they have the feeling that they already are doing their best to meet the general population's expectations. And this is what we found striking. They are all anxious about their future, and that weighs a lot on their happiness. So why define different categories of farmers? Because they have different needs for support, to go through transition periods, to go through conversions. So we have to provide them with customized support and adapt the advice we give them because they have different needs. Now that we have defined these categories, we have to quantify them with statistics. So in the next stage in our study, we will have figures, and maybe we will find other profiles that we have not observed so far. And as we go, we will try to analyze the conversion process. When a breeder wants to introduce new systems on the farm to meet the expectations and the challenges, how can we support him or her so that these changes happen in flawlessly and seamlessly? Thank you very much for your attention.